For decades, our entire economy has run on a pretty simple and honestly a pretty wasteful model. Take, make, and then throw away. But what if that waste was actually one of your most valuable resources? We are right in the middle of this massive shift to what's called a circular economy, where products are actually designed to be reused, repaired, and remanufactured. And listen, this isn't just some feel-good sustainability trend. It's being called the next great industrial transformation and, frankly, a huge business opportunity.
Okay, let's just dive right into the numbers here. According to a global survey by the World Economic Forum, a staggering 95% of executives believe circularity is going to be important to their companies within the next 3 years. I mean, that is a near universal consensus. Pretty much everyone agrees this is where we're headed.
But, and this is a big but, here's the reality check. For all that ambition, only 20% of those same companies have actually managed to build a circular supply chain at scale. So you see, there's this huge disconnect between wanting to do it and, actually getting it done.
And that, right there, is the central question for us today. Why is there such a massive gap between what companies want to do and what they're actually able to achieve? What's standing in the way? And maybe more importantly, how do the leaders build a bridge to get across that gap? Well, it turns out this gap isn't caused by just one single problem. Nope, it's a whole complex set of challenges that really you can group into 5 major roadblocks that just stop companies dead in their tracks. And here they are, the big 5 hurdles that companies are running into. We're talking about the nuts and bolts of operations and logistics, making the numbers actually work with business opportunity and profitability, having the right technology and data, getting your own organization on board with the change, and finally, trying to navigate the complex maze of regulation. Now, what's really fascinating here is where the biggest pain point is. Of all those barriers, the number one hurdle by far is operational. It's the physical act of reverse logistics. I mean, literally just getting products back from customers and then having to deal with totally unpredictable quality and quantity. It's the sheer complexity of making a supply chain run both forwards and backwards.
So, okay, if you're facing all those challenges, how do the pioneers even begin building that bridge across the gap? Well, the foundation is all about strategy. It starts with a really disciplined choice about where to even begin. Because without a clear focus, companies just spread themselves way too thin and they fail.
And that focus, well, it comes from looking at 4 dimensions all at the same time. Choosing the right geography to start in, targeting the most receptive customer segment, focusing on the right product, and defining a crystal clear circular value proposition. Like, are you going to repair, recycle, or remanufacture?
In this example, just perfectly illustrates how those dimensions click together to form a real strategy. Instead of some vague goal, a winning approach is super sharp and focused, like this one. Selling, that's the value prop. Secondhand servers, that's the product. To B2B companies, the customer, specifically in the US, the geography. See, it's clear, it's targeted, and it's actually achievable.
And we see this smart start small approach out in the real world. Take Colt Technology Services. They didn't try to go circular across all of Europe at once. No way! They started a pilot in Sweden, a manageable market where they could test their model, work out all the kinks, prove the business case, and then scale with confidence.
Okay, so once you've chosen your ground, the next step is to draw up the blueprint. This is all about the core design choices for the supply chain itself, the real nitty-gritty of how it's going to function at scale.
The first fundamental choice you have to make is about structure. Do you try to integrate your circular flows into your existing linear supply chain, sharing warehouses and trucks? Or do you build a completely separate, dedicated system just for your circular operations, to give it focus and avoid messing up your current business? The second huge choice is ownership. Do you build all these new capabilities, like sorting, testing, and repair, yourself, in-house? Or do you outsource to specialized partners who already have the expertise, which lets you move way faster and tap into existing networks?
And the data shows a really clear pattern in how companies make this choice. They tend to keep the high-value, knowledge-intensive stuff like remanufacturing and complex sorting in-house, where they can control the quality. But for the scale-intensive tasks like collection and basic logistics, they're much more likely to partner up.
So the crucial point here is that it's rarely a simple either-or decision. Most successful companies, like Schneider Electric, are using a flexible, hybrid approach. They might share their existing logistics network to be efficient, but then create dedicated, specialized facilities for the really complex work of sorting and refurbishment.
So you've got your strategy and you've got your blueprint. The final piece of the bridge is the support system. These are the foundational elements you need to stabilize the entire structure and allow it to scale up successfully.
And there are 4 of these critical enablers. You absolutely need the right technology and data to handle all the new complexity. You need the right people and culture to drive the change. It requires strategic finance and investment to fund the transition. And finally, you really need supportive policy and regulation from governments to create a market that helps you succeed.
Now, what's so interesting here is how the priorities are shifting. The survey shows that today, the single most important driver for circularity is just strong leadership commitment. But when those same leaders look to the future, they see technology, specifically digital traceability and data, as becoming the absolute most critical enabler for success.
But that technology is only as good as the culture it supports. Scaling circularity demands a fundamental mindset shift across the entire organization, from a culture of disposal to a culture of repair and reuse. And that means new skills, new ways of measuring performance, and really a whole new way of defining value.
When you put all these pieces together, the strategy, the design, the enablers, it becomes crystal clear that we're not just talking about a better way to manage waste here. We're talking about the next major industrial transformation.
The report just puts it perfectly with this quote: "This really positions the circular shift on the same level as the digital revolution that completely reshaped our economy over the last couple of decades. It's that big."
And this isn't some niche or regional trend. This is a global transformation that is fundamentally redefining how value is created. The companies that figure this out and master it, they're going to be the leaders of the next decade.
So, what's the bottom line? What should you take away from all this? Well, for any leader watching, it really boils down to 3 guiding principles. Number 1, prioritize with discipline. Choose exactly where you're going to start. 2, design for scale. Build the blueprint to succeed from day 1. And 3, enable and influence. Create the support systems, both inside and outside your company, to make it all happen.
Look, the shift from a linear to a circular economy isn't a question of if, but when and how. The next industrial transformation is already happening. So the only question left to ask is, are you ready to build the bridge?